This is not a usual video I make. What I'm about to share truly affected me. I saw a young woman only 23 years old, a refugee from Ukraine who escaped the war, stabbed to death on an American train. And what shocked me even more was not just the attack itself, but the fact that dozens of people were there watching and nobody helped her. I'm not making this video for views or clicks. I'm making it because it breaks my heart to think that a human being can die like this. Alone, surrounded by people, and still left without a hand reaching out. So I asked myself, why didn't anyone step in? And why was this man with such a violent past free to walk the streets? The answers might reveal something much darker about our society today. I want to begin by saying this clearly. I don't care about skin color, race, or politics when it comes to human life. No one, absolutely no one, deserves to die like this. Her name was Iryna Zarutska. She was only 23 years old. She had already lived through the terror of war, fleeing Ukraine in search of safety. Imagine that. Leaving behind everything you know, your home, your friends, your family, in the hope that somewhere else life will be kinder. She believed America would be that safe place. A chance to rebuild, to study, to live without fear of bombs or soldiers at her door. But instead of finding safety, she found death. In one of the most public places imaginable, a train carriage filled with people. On August 22nd in Charlotte, North Carolina, her life ended in seconds. Not in the middle of a war zone, but in what should have been an ordinary day. She was attacked without warning, stabbed over and over. And the detail that makes this story unbearable is that she died surrounded by people who just watched. Some recorded with their phones. Others froze. Nobody came to her side. She died in public but completely alone. It's easy to judge the crowd, to scream, "How could you do nothing?" But maybe the harder question is, why have we become a society where a human life can slip away in front of us, and still no one moves? This was not just the death of Iryna Zarutska. This was the death of something inside us too. Our instinct to protect one another. Our courage to stand up against evil. Because Iryna's story is not only about her. It is about all of us. Now we have to talk about the man who ended Iryna's life. His name was DeCarlos Brown Jr., 34 years old. This was not a man with a clean history. Not a first-time offender. He carried with him a long record, violent crimes, arrests, and, according to reports, serious mental health problems. The warning signs were there. For years. And yet, he was free. Free to ride that train. Free to carry a knife. Free to walk among innocent people. How does this happen? How does someone with such a background slip through the cracks of the system over and over again, until the inevitable tragedy strikes? This is where the story becomes not just heartbreaking, but infuriating. Because Iryna's death wasn't only the act of one man, it was also the result of a system that failed to protect her. In many parts of America, violent offenders are released back onto the streets under policies that sound good on paper. Things like reform or cashless bail. But what does it mean in reality? It means that dangerous men are given chance after chance, while innocent lives pay the price. And it's not just about legal policies. There's another side to this. The collapse of mental health care. DeCarlos Brown wasn't only a criminal, he was reportedly unstable, in need of treatment, supervision, and intervention. But instead of being helped or contained, he was simply left to wander. And so he wandered into Iryna's path. This is the part that makes the anger boil inside. This death was preventable. It didn't have to happen. She had already escaped a war. She survived bombs and destruction. But she could not survive the failure of the very society she trusted to keep her safe. Here comes the most painful question of all. Why didn't anyone help her? Think about it. A young woman is being attacked, stabbed over and over in front of dozens of witnesses. People with eyes, ears and phones. And yet, nobody moved. Nobody rushed to stop it. Nobody even tried to shield her. Some of them filmed. Others froze. Most just sat in silence. And so she died surrounded by people but died completely alone. Psychologists have a name for this. It's called the bystander effect. It means that the more witnesses there are to a crime, the less likely it is that anyone will actually intervene. Why? Because each person thinks, someone else will do it. Someone else will step in. And when everyone thinks that, nobody acts. This isn't the first time we've seen it. Back in 1964 in New York City, a young woman named Kitty Genovese was murdered outside her apartment. Reports claimed that dozens of neighbors heard her screams, but they didn't call the police until it was far too late. That case shocked America, and now, 60 years later, history repeated itself in a subway car in Charlotte. But is this really just psychology? Or is it something darker about our society today? People say they were scared the attacker might turn on them, scared they would be hurt. And yes, fear is real. But fear cannot excuse absolute inaction. Because what does it say about us when pulling out a phone to record feels safer than pulling out a hand to help? Have we become a society of spectators? A society that would rather watch a tragedy than stop it? We live in an age where people run toward accidents not to save lives, but to capture a video, where pain is consumed like content, where death itself can trend online within minutes. And here is the most chilling thought. When people stop seeing each other as human beings and start seeing each other as content, humanity itself begins to collapse. This is why Iryna's death is not just about one criminal with a knife. It's about all of us. About the world we've built, where a young woman can be slaughtered in a train full of people and still die alone. Ask yourself honestly, if you had been there, what would you have done? Would you have been brave enough to act? Or would you have looked away just like everyone else? Because the truth is, the answer to that question doesn't just define those passengers. It defines our entire society. The murder of Iryna Zarutska did not just shock the passengers on that train. It shook America. And very quickly, one voice rose above all others: Donald Trump. Trump's reaction was not quiet, it was not careful, and it was not diplomatic. It was furious. He called the stabbing brutal, the act of a lunatic, a man who should never have been free. But then he went even further. Trump said, "The blood of this innocent woman is on the hands of the Democrats." He blamed liberal policies like cashless bail and lenient justice reforms for creating a system where dangerous repeat offenders walk the streets freely. And in his words, it was these very policies that made Iryna's death possible. But Trump did not stop there. He demanded the ultimate punishment. Not prison, not rehabilitation, death. He called for a quick trial and a death sentence without delay. In his words, there is no other option. And under his administration, federal prosecutors promised to seek the maximum penalty for DeCarlos Brown Jr., that means execution. For Trump's supporters, this is leadership. A man willing to say what others won't, willing to call out a broken system, and willing to demand justice in its harshest form. But for his critics, this was pure politics, a tragedy used as fuel, a young woman's death turned into a weapon for power. And so the question hangs heavy in the air. Was Trump right? Is the blood of this girl really on the hands of weak policies and failed politicians? Or is this just another moment where pain is turned into politics? One thing is certain. In that train, no one lifted a hand to save her. But outside the train, Trump lifted his voice and promised blood for blood. This story has stayed with me. And maybe that's because it's not just about one young woman. It's about all of us. Iryna Zarutska survived a war, only to die in front of people who chose silence. That image will haunt me forever. And it should haunt all of us. I don't care about politics, race, or who you vote for. What I care about is this: no human being should ever die this way. No one should ever leave this world alone, surrounded by people who choose to do nothing. And yes, we can blame the system, the policies, the politicians. Maybe Trump is right, maybe he's wrong, but the deeper truth is this: laws don't save people. People save people. Courage saves people. Humanity saves people. So if there's one thing I want you to take from this video, it's this question. If you had been there, what would you have done? Would you have stood frozen, just another spectator? Or would you have been the one to stand up? To fight for a life that wasn't your own? Because the answer to that question is not about politics. It's about who we really are. And as for me, I never want to live in a world where silence becomes normal, and where human lives turn into content. That's not a world worth living in. This is my voice, my reaction, my heart. What's yours?